Welcome back to Fiscal Fold. The greatest transfer of wealth in human history is happening right now. $84 trillion is changing hands. But here is the terrifying truth. 90% of the families who receive this money will lose every single penny within 3 generations. Most of them won't even make it past the second. This is the inherited disaster. The clock is ticking. As the baby boomer generation passes their assets to Gen X and millennials, we are witnessing a phenomenon that economists have studied for decades. It's called shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves. The first generation builds it, the second generation spins it, and the third generation is back where they started with nothing. This isn't a theory, it's a statistical certainty for most of you watching. Why does this happen? Because wealth, when given and not earned, is often a curse. It erodes the very traits that created the wealth in the first place: discipline, hunger, and a deep understanding of value. When you inherit a fortune without inheriting the mindset required to build it, you aren't an owner. You are merely a temporary custodian of a decaying asset. Look at this chart. The drop-off is vertical. By the third generation, the family business is sold, the real estate is liquidated, and the trust funds are dry. The wealth that took 40 years of sacrifice to build is vaporized in less than 10. Most heirs treat a windfall like a lottery ticket, not a responsibility. They buy the lifestyle, but they forget to buy the assets. The psychological toll is just as heavy. We see sudden wealth syndrome destroying families. Heirs who were never taught to manage money find themselves overwhelmed by choices, by taxes, and by the pressure to maintain an image they can't afford. The money that was supposed to provide security instead provides anxiety, depression, and eventually, bankruptcy. If you are expecting an inheritance, or if you are planning to leave one, you are currently standing in a minefield. The system is designed to take that money back. Between inheritance taxes, inflation, and poor financial education, the odds are stacked heavily against you. You are being set up for a disaster you don't even see coming. But it doesn't have to be this way. The 10% who keep their wealth follow a completely different set of rules. In this series, we're going to show you those rules. In the next part, we will expose the first great predator of your inheritance, the tax trap, and how the government plans to take their fair share of your family's hard work. You cannot afford to miss it. Stay tuned. The biggest predator of your family's wealth isn't a bad investment or a market crash. It's the government. Most people spend their entire lives building an estate, only to have it decimated the moment they pass away. Before you ever see a single dollar of your inheritance, the tax trap is already closing in. This is the silent liquidation of the middle class. Think of the tax system as a predator. It waits in the shadows of legal loopholes and complex codes. For the average family, the death tax, officially known as the estate tax, can take up to 40% of everything over a certain threshold. That is 4 decades of work, 4 decades of saving, wiped out in a single billing cycle. It is the ultimate wealth extraction tool. But it isn't just the federal tax. Many states have their own inheritance taxes. And then there is the probate process. Probate is the legal minefield where your family's assets are frozen, sometimes for years, while lawyers and court-appointed executors take their cut. Legal fees can easily eat up 5 to 10% of an estate before a single heir is paid. For many families, this is the breaking point. Why is this allowed to happen? Because most people refuse to talk about death until it's too late. They avoid the uncomfortable conversations about wills, trusts, and succession planning. This silence is the government's greatest ally. Without a clear, legal shield in place, your life's work is left unprotected, vulnerable to the maximum possible extraction. Planning isn't just about money, it's about defense. This is the reality of the tax trap. You work, you pay income tax. You save, you pay capital gains tax. You die, and they tax you one last time. By the time the money reaches your children, the original value has been sliced and diced. What should have been a launch pad for the next generation becomes a mere pittance, barely enough to cover the debts left behind. The cycle of wealth is broken. The wealthy don't pay these taxes, not because they are evil, but because they understand the rules of the game. They use tools that the middle class doesn't even know exist. They don't own assets in their own names. They own them in structures that the taxman can't touch. If you want to keep your family's wealth, you must learn to play by the 1%'s rules. The tax trap is the first great hurdle. But the second is even more dangerous because it comes from within. In the next part, we will explore the education gap, why the children of the wealthy are taught to manage millions, while the middle class is only taught to earn a salary. It is the difference between a legacy and a loss. Stay with us. The real inheritance isn't money. It's the mindset required to keep it. Most families spend years worrying about how much they will leave behind, but they spend zero time worrying about who they are leaving it to. While the middle class is taught to be good employees, the 1% are taught to be masters of the system. This gap is why your family's fortune is disappearing. The standard education system is designed to produce workers. You are taught to show up on time, follow instructions, and trade your hours for a steady paycheck. This is the foundation of the middle class. It provides stability, but it provides no training on how to manage, protect, or grow a large pool of capital. You are trained to earn money, not to own assets. Compare that to the dinner table conversations of the wealthy. They talk about cash flow, tax efficiency, and asset allocation. They teach their children that money is a tool, a soldier to be sent out to capture more wealth. They aren't taught to work for money. They are taught to make money work for them. This isn't just knowledge. It's a fundamental shift in identity. Giving a large inheritance to someone without financial literacy is like giving a Ferrari to someone who doesn't know how to drive. They will inevitably crash it. The sudden influx of capital without the corresponding skill set leads to reckless spending, bad investments, and eventually, total loss. The wealth is gone because the capacity to hold it was never developed. This is the education gap in action. One person sees a paycheck as the end goal, money to be spent on a lifestyle. The other sees an asset as the beginning, money to be used to build a legacy. As long as your family's education remains focused on the paycheck, any inheritance you receive will be temporary. It is simply a matter of time before it returns to the system. If you want to be part of the 10% who keeps their wealth, you must take responsibility for your own financial education. You must learn the language of assets and liabilities. You must teach your children the rules of the game before they are handed the keys to the castle. Knowledge is the only true shield against the erosion of wealth. The education gap creates the vulnerability, but the next hurdle is what the system uses to exploit that vulnerability. In the next part, we will discuss asset protection secrets, the hidden tools the ultra-wealthy use to keep their money safe from lawsuits, creditors, and economic shocks. This is where you learn to build your fortress. Stay tuned. The wealthy don't own anything, but they control everything. This is one of the most important secrets of the 1%. While the middle class puts all their assets in their own names, making them easy targets for lawsuits and creditors, the wealthy hide behind invisible fortresses of legal protection. Today, we reveal the secrets of asset protection. Asset protection is the art of making yourself judgment-proof. It's about building a legal wall around your wealth that is so high and so thick that it's simply not worth the effort for anyone to try and climb it. In a litigious society, your greatest liability isn't a bad market. It's your own name on a title deed or a bank account. The two primary tools in this fortress are trusts and LLCs. Think of a trust as a separate legal entity, a ghost that can hold property, spend money, and earn income, but has no physical form to sue. When you put your home or your business into a trust, you no longer own it in the eyes of the law. You control it, you benefit from it, but it is shielded from your personal liabilities. Then there is the limited liability company, or LLC. The wealthy often use nested LLCs to compartmentalize their risk. They don't have one company that owns 10 properties. They have 10 companies that each own one. If something goes wrong with one property, the other 9 are safe behind their own legal walls. This is how you protect your family's legacy from a single mistake or a frivolous lawsuit. The philosophy is simple: minimize ownership, maximize control. If you don't own it, it can't be taken from you. But if you control it, you have all the benefits of ownership without the risks. This is the difference between being a target and being a ghost. The system is designed to reward those who understand these structures and punish those who ignore them. You don't need to be a billionaire to start using these tools. Asset protection should begin the moment you have something worth losing. Whether it's a small rental property, a growing business, or a significant inheritance, you must put the shield in place before the attack comes. Once you are sued, it's often too late to move the assets. The time to build your fortress is while the sun is shining. Asset protection is the shield, and education is the sword. But even with both, you still need a map. In our final part, we will bring everything together and provide you with your survival plan. The actionable steps you must take right now to ensure your family is part of the 10% who survives the great wealth transfer. Don't miss the conclusion. Stay with us. The great wealth transfer is not an obstacle to be feared. It is an opportunity to be seized. But the window of opportunity is closing. You have the facts, you know the threats, and you've seen the secrets. Now, you need a plan. Here is your 5-step survival plan to ensure your family builds, protects, and keeps a lasting legacy. Step 1. Break the silence. You must have the uncomfortable conversations with your family today. Discuss the estate, the goals, and the responsibilities. Wealth is lost when secrets are kept. Unity is your greatest defense. A family that communicates is a family that survives the transfer. Step 2. Build your legal shield. Don't wait for a crisis. Move your assets into trusts and LLCs now. Protect your home, your business, and your investments from the tax man and the courtroom. Make your family's wealth invisible to predators and untouchable to the system. Step 3. Prioritize education over inheritance. If you have to choose between leaving your children $1 million or leaving them the knowledge of how to manage $1 million, choose the knowledge every single time. Invest in their financial literacy now, before the stakes are real. Prepare the heirs for the money, not just the money for the heirs. Step 4. Focus on cash flow producing assets. Don't just leave a pile of cash or a big house. Leave rental properties, dividend-paying stocks, or businesses that generate income. Teach your heirs to live off the fruit, not the tree. This is how you prevent the shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves cycle from ever starting. Step 5. Start today. Wealth isn't built in a day, but it can be lost in one. The small actions you take this week, opening that LLC, scheduling that family meeting, reading that first book on trusts, are the most important steps you will ever take. You are not just building for yourself. You are building for the generations you will never meet. This has been the Great Wealth Transfer series on Fiscal Fold. If this series has changed the way you look at your family's future, please join our community by hitting that subscribe button and turning on notifications. We are here to help you navigate the new economy and achieve true financial sovereignty. Share this finale with the person who needs to hear it most. I'm Ayan Shah. Build your legacy. I'll see you in the next one.